Alright guys, so before I get going here, I don't have a lot of time with this video because the software that I'm using, it only gives me 15 minutes. So some of this might seem kind of rushed. I'm going to try to break it down as easy as I can for you, but before I get going, I want to let you guys know that, I miss you, and hope things are going okay for you, because I know for a lot of you, your life's probably been, disrupted, to say the least, by this crisis that our world's going through right now. So anyway, without further ado, what we're going to be doing in this project, guys, I'm going to be introducing you to Romeo and Juliet. Okay. I know we were learning about poetry, and like right before you guys went to spring break, but I decided to scrap that, and we're going to move on to Romeo and Juliet, because as an English department, we felt like um, you at least need to be exposed to Shakespeare and Romeo and Juliet in your ninth grade year, which is what I was planning on doing when we came back from spring break. But we're just going to have to kind of get going in this fashion, due to the way things are. So anyway, we're gonna be focusing on Romeo and Juliet in this project, and as far as what we're doing in this project, I'll get into that later, like I said. But what I want to get started doing now is just introducing you to Shakespeare, who he was, some kind of interesting things about his life, and why he's still relevant today. So, first things first. We've heard of we've heard of Shakespeare, right? But for a lot of us, we're like, man, who the heck is this guy? Like, why is he so important? Why do all my nerdy English teachers talk about him? Okay. So first off, he was born in Stratford, England, which is right here, London, which was where all of Shakespeare's plays were performed. That's over here, but here is Stratford. So that's where Shakespeare was born. We think it was in 1564, but we're not really sure. Um, it's just he was kind of a mysterious figure, and we're just not really sure exactly when he was born, but we think it was somewhere around 1564. Um, the cool thing about him, I mean, as far as his resume goes, I mean, the dude invented 1,700 words, right? Not very many writers can say that they invented that many words. In fact, none of them can. Okay, so he was brilliant. Not only was he a playwright, not only did he write plays, but he also was an accomplished actor and an accomplished poet. Those are some things that he did before he started writing plays. Um, and so some of his famous works, I'm assuming some of us have heard of Hamlet. That is my personal favorite Shakespeare play. It's excellent, as well as Macbeth, Othello, Once Upon a Midnight Dream, um, and Romeo and Juliet. As far as which one is his most popular, I mean, Hamlet, is one literary, critics talk about a lot. Has influenced a lot of modern stories, as has Macbeth, as has Romeo and Juliet. Othello, and Once Upon a Midnight Dream, maybe not as much, but anyway, it's kind of hard to tell which one is his most famous. Is there's several of them that are definitely up there. Anyway, um, that'll go for me. There we go. So how did Shakespeare change the language that we speak? You know, like I said, he invented 1,700 words, and so that's kind of how that's one of the things he's most notably or that he's most known for, was how many words he created. Okay, and they're not like old English words, right? That we don't speak anymore. Okay, no, Shakespeare was, they consider his work to be early modern English. Okay, we speak modern English, and he invented words like addiction, fashionable, blushing, bloodstained, that kind of stuff, right? Words that we use all the time. So not old words that don't have a place in our speech anymore. So anyway, uh, Shakespeare also coined many phrases we still say today. Okay, so phrases like "fight fire with fire," "good riddance," "wear your heart on your sleeve." I've seen better days. Stuff that we say. That all those things come from Shakespeare. Okay, and his work. Tongue tied, right? Wild goose chase, right? People say that kind of stuff all the time, and that's where that comes from. Um, and there's some more of them there, right? A sorry sight, love is blind, dead as a doornail, right? The list goes on. So, like I said, Shakespeare was born in 1564, or so we think, in Stratford, England, and he died in 1616, um, also in Stratford, England, or at least that's what we think, right? So, in his grave marker, or at least the grave that we think is his, it says, "Good friend, for Jesus' sake, forbear to dig the dust enclosed here. Blessed be the man that spares these stones, and cursed be he that moves my bones. So basically, he's saying, don't rob my grave, right? Which is something that happened all the time. Grave robbery was just it happened all the time. And so, if you guys have, I don't know if you guys have talked about that in your history classes. I'm assuming you have like the, that's the thing that goes all the way back to to the time of the Egyptians. Grave robbery was pretty common back then. So anyway, so the Globe, okay, that's where Shakespeare's plays were performed, okay, and that was the name of the theater that Shakespeare's plays were performed at. So they called themselves Lord Chamberlain's Men. That was during the reign of Queen Elizabeth that they called themselves that, and then after King James replaced Queen Elizabeth, they called themselves the King's Men. Okay, so the Globe, kind of how things work, guys, was if you were a peasant, you didn't have a lot of money, you could pay a penny, and you could stand down in this area, and you could watch one of Shakespeare's plays, right? It was like their form of entertainment. It was like going to the movies, right? So if you were in the lower class, you would stand here and watch the play. If you were in the upper class, you'd stand up here. You'd have to pay more, obviously, to sit up here. So the people that stood in the pit, they were called the groundlings, right? Because they're on the ground, right? And when my wife and I went to London, and we got to see a Shakespeare play, we stood on the ground, right? We paid $5 and we stood right here and watched a Shakespeare play. So you could still do that today. What you're looking at right here is a reconstruction of the original site. So it was built in 1599. Unfortunately, it was destroyed in 1613. So the Globe Theater that you can still go to today is a reconstruction. Okay, so after it burnt down, they rebuilt it again in 1614, so a year later, and it was in use until 1642. Okay, and it was built on the same spot. So um, anyway, so the fire that destroyed the Globe occurred when a cannon went off. Right, they were using it for one of the plays, and it misfired and ignited the wooden beams and thatching. Okay, so what thatching is, it's like a grass roof, right? And so you can imagine this dried grass, when the cannon went off, it was like a tinder bundle, right? It just went up in flames, and that was kind of all she wrote. So according to the documents, this is kind of funny. According to documents, no one was hurt, but there was a guy's pants got caught on fire, and somebody put it out with a bottle of ale. So you gotta love the 1500s, 1600s. Anyway, so kind of I was going to show you this video, but for time's sake, I don't really think we have time. It was just going to walk you through, what the play looks, or excuse me, what the theater looks like, and it's just kind of a virtual tour and kind of an advertisement kind of thing. I'd encourage you to watch this on your own if you would like to, just kind of see what that was like. But it looks like this. I'll put this picture on there. So the reconstruction opened, for modern audiences in 1997. And it's located 750 feet from the original site, so it's about as close to the real thing as you can get, right, without getting in a time machine. Okay, so it's awesome. So put it on your bucket list and go visit that place someday. So Queen Elizabeth, she was the ruler of England in the time of Shakespeare. Okay, and just a quick history lesson: she was a daughter of Henry VIII. Okay, so the guy that had a lot of marital troubles. The guy that had 6 wives. I don't know if you guys have gone over that in your history classes. If you've heard the divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived thing, that's where that comes from. Is Henry VIII, and Queen Elizabeth was his second daughter and he had her with Anne Boleyn. His first daughter was with Queen Catherine of Aragon, and her name was Queen Mary. But during the time of Shakespeare, Queen Elizabeth was in power, and they call her the Virgin Queen because she did not have a husband. She was smart enough to realize, if I get married, I will not have the power. My husband will. So she never got married. That's why they called her the Virgin Queen. Back in the time of Shakespeare, there was an upper class and there was a lower class. All right, there wasn't in between. They didn't have a middle class like we have today. It was either those who have and those who had not. That was it. And so obviously, if you were in the nobility, you had the power. Okay, and so the nobility made up 1% of the population. Um, and this elite group often used, pretty harsh and violent tactics to keep the rest of the population under control, right? And so um, the monarchs and the rulers, a lot of times ruled with fear. Some monarchs were kinder than others, but there was always kind of an understanding that if you if you cross the nobility, that you're going to pay for it with your life in some form. Okay. And so a couple things about women in Shakespeare's time. I'm mentioning this because um, the ruler during Shakespeare's time was a woman, Queen Elizabeth, and like I said, she was smart enough not to get married, so that she would remain in power. Because everybody else, the other women of that time, it was their role in society to obey their husband. And Queen Elizabeth, she didn't want to do that. She wanted to rule her country. Um, and so we've kind of gotten this a little bit, in class, but a lot of times writers, when they set out to write a work of fiction, they're commenting on society in some way, and Shakespeare was no different. There were a lot of gender role stuff that he kind of commented on in his writing, but he also would comment on sort of he'd comment on inequality and how just the way that nobility worked and how it really wasn't fair. Okay, he would often comment on those things and how power is a corrupting force. Okay, and so there's going to be some gender role stuff in Romeo and Juliet that hopefully sticks out to you. There'll be another lecture later on where I kind of give you guys I help you analyze the play or the movie a little bit. But he also talked on power's corrupting force, and that is also present in Romeo and Juliet too. So we'll kind of get into that stuff later on. So some of the themes, okay, that you should be looking out for. And this will be really important with your final product. And I'll get into that. I'll get into what you're doing in just a second. But some themes that I want you to look out for while you're watching the movie is love is an intoxicating force that supersedes all other values. Another one would be violence is a natural consequence of love. Love without prudence can end only in despair. Um, the next one, the needs of an individual are less important than the needs of a society. And you could also create your own theme to write about, which is what you'll be doing in the final product if you'd like. Everybody else, you'll be selecting one of these. So say you disagree with 4. You don't think that the play portrays this theme, don't pick it. All right, pick the one that you feel like the play portrays. And before I'll come back to this in just a second, but I feel like I need to explain what we're going to be doing in this project really quickly. Okay, so essentially what you're going to be doing, you are going to be watching the play. Okay, so first things first, you're going to listen to this lecture, right? So you're already here, so you're in the right spot. And then after you listen to this lecture, you're going to kind of familiarize yourself with some themes associated with the play. You're going to watch the play in the movie version. And then after that, you're going to write an essay about how the how the story portrays one of the themes on the list. Okay, so you get to pick which theme you want to write about. Okay, and real quickly, a theme, if you guys remember, is the main moral or lesson that you get out of a story, right? So, like a theme of Macbeth, for example, which is another Shakespeare play, would be that power is a corrupting force that can blind people to right and wrong, right? Anyway, so that's what you're gonna be doing in this project, guys. You're gonna be writing an essay about a theme that is portrayed through Romeo and Juliet. Okay, so if you guys need any help moving forward, you guys should have gotten my office hours. They're included on a document that looks like this. Okay, so you'll be able to get a hold of me from 1 to 1:30. Okay, right there, 1 to 1:30 Monday through Friday. And you can also get a hold of me during my additional hours, which are where are they at? Okay, 2:30 to 3. Okay, so 1 to 1:30 or 2:30 to 3. Get a hold of me. You can get on my Google Hangouts and have a video conference with me with your questions, or of course you can email me. Whatever's easier for you. I don't think I am forgetting anything. So, guys, thanks for listening to this, and if you need any help,